What is up, everybody? This is Mr. Howard, and today we're going to be talking about day 3 of the E3 2016 showcases that took place this weekend. Today we're going to be going over Sony and Nintendo. I have some WWE 2K16 gameplay on here just so we have something to look at. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in because this E3 has been very exciting. Happy with what we've seen so far. So let's jump into it. Why don't we start with the Nintendo showcase just because it was very short and to the point. They started off with a good half hour or so, I'd say, of Pokemon Moon and Sun gameplay and kind of an interview with some of the developers. They showcased some of the new animations and the new models for the player or for the humans in the game as well as for the Pokemon. We did get to see, I believe, 3 new Pokemon, which, if you want to see them, you can watch the gameplay trailer in the you can click on the description below for that link. But they basically just kind of started off in what looked to be like the player's home, like you do in any Pokemon game, and basically the player, he got into a couple wild battles, caught a couple Pokemon, and then towards the end of it, we got to see the new Battle Royal mode, where basically it's a 4-way competitive multiplayer portion of the game. So I'm assuming it's something where you go into you go to like the upstairs of a Pokemon Center, or there's probably a special building for it or something for you to connect with other players. But it's like a fatal 4-way if you watch wrestling. It's like a fatal 4-way fight or matchup between 4 trainers, and they each play one Pokemon at a time. They each have 3 Pokemon to go through before they are eliminated. And we only got to see the first round, but it looked pretty cool. You have 3 other Pokemon on the battlefield. You can attack whichever one you want. And the first person to have their Pokemon faint loses that round, and points are tallied accordingly. I'd like to see more of this, although I'm not probably going to buy any of the Nintendo games since I don't own any Nintendo systems that came out after the Wii. But it is good nonetheless, and overall I'd give it a hype of 7 out of 10 or so. Also, they focused mainly this year on their new Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wind, and it looks pretty good. It's starting to look like, like a Fable, or like graphically speaking, and when it comes to animations and models, the games are starting to look really, really good. I am not a big fan of The Legend of Zelda. I respect the hell out of it. But I just never really got into the games when I was a kid, and I haven't owned a system that could play most of the games since then. So any gameplay I've gotten has been at friends' houses when I was younger, and stuff like that. But they did showcase a lot of gameplay with some Q&A with some of the developers, and that seemed to be the main focus of the Nintendo Treehouse event that they had for day 3. So overall, there were only 2 games showcased, and I believe they were both already announced. So I mean, this will get like a 70% for the day. I mean, it's not really fair to compare it to the other conferences since it wasn't really a full conference. But overall, they did pretty well, and hopefully we'll see more from them in the future. Alright, so, moving on, we have a lot to talk about with Sony. And a lot of people are saying Sony won the conference of E3 this year. I am going to go ahead and say they were in the top 3, but, it really just comes down to opinion and how much and what you were really interested in from what each showcase put forward. So, to start off, I have to say the first thing they showcased, which could arguably be the biggest thing of this entire conference, It definitely is for me. They announced a new God of War. And I think some artwork might have got leaked before the conference, which was a little bit upsetting. But they did confirm it, and they showed, like maybe 10 minutes of gameplay from the actual story, and you get to see a Kratos looking character, but it is not Kratos. Basically hunting with his son and trying to teach his son how to hunt for deer or elk. And along the way, they are kind of interrupted by like trolls, I think, and just other various kinds of enemies. It's instead of a like Greek mythology kind of feeling behind it. It is more Nordic and more, it feels more like like the Skyrim, uh, lore or Lord of the Rings or something like that. We got to see some really cool gameplay of which looked to be like a scripted part of the story, but cool nonetheless, where he and his son took out a giant, what I call a troll, and just kind of narrowly escaped death. And he does have this really cool looking, kind of like it's like a Nordic axe or Nordic hatchet or something. It almost looks like it has some kind of a frost enchantment on it, and he can retrieve it similar to that of like Thor's hammer. So there's some kind of bond between them where he can throw it at someone and then kind of just reach out in midair and it will fly back to him, which I thought was really cool. And that's pretty much it. That's what they showed. I don't think they gave any release date details or really anything else other than the fact that it exists, and they have clearly done a decent amount of work on it, so maybe we'll get it this year. Here's hoping. Alright, oh yeah, so overall, I'd give that a 10 out of 10 on the hype scale. I was super excited about this, and I hope we see a lot more from that really, really soon. Moving on from there, they showed a quick gameplay trailer from The Last Guardian, which looks good. And of course, if you know anything about this game, it's been in development for like the last 340 years, and people are really waiting and waiting and waiting for this game to come out. It wasn't until last year that they finally addressed it and said that yes, we are finally almost done working on it, and this will be a game that we will release. And this year at E3, they finally gave us a release date, which is that of October 25th. So, not very far away. Not very far away at all. Moving on, we saw the Horizon Zero Dawn gameplay and trailer. So we got two different things here. This is one of the new IPs that I am super excited about, and I really cannot wait to get my hands on this. It's basically a post-apocalyptic, like, survival mode game. It's really hard to explain, but somehow humanity that as we know it, collapsed, and over a certain period of time, I don't know how long, nature took over the world again. So there doesn't seem to be any like tall buildings, at least not functioning. And the humans that are left are all part of tribes similar to that of like early and like our early ancestors, the early human beings that would run around hunting and stuff. So that's interesting because we have the remnants of this technologically advanced society, but these humans that grew up without knowing what any of that is. And there are, although there are regular animals and enemies like that, but there are also kind of like robotic animals and enemies. We saw like a giant T-Rex in, like a robotic T-Rex in the original gameplay trailer. And I believe we saw... what else? We saw a bunch of deer, and we saw like tortoises and alligators and velociraptors, and it's just a bunch of random animals in robotic form. which is really cool. They basically kill or hunt the technological animals to gain resources, and we're not really sure what the resources do yet. But this main character, she has multiple bows that have multiple enhancements on them. So some of them might have fire, some of them might have shrapnel in it. There's a bunch of different um, ways to attack. And in the showcase, we got to see her take control of one of the robotic deer and then basically charge and hunt like a larger robotic enemy that seemed to be. She said it looked ancient, so I'm assuming it was definitely made directly by humans because it seems more advanced of a hunter than just a regular robotic animal. So overall, I give this an 8 out of 10. And this is looking good. I don't know if there's a release date currently. I think it might be coming out next year, in February. But it looks really good, and I'm glad to see some good IPs out there. Moving on, we also saw a little bit more from the game that used to be codenamed Detroit. It is now fully named Detroit Become Human. And it seems to be kind of like a detective style game where you play as a robot or a synth like person, an android or something who's very human like, but is clearly a robot. And you have the ability to make numerous decisions that change the outcome of the particular mission or crime you're trying to solve. And they showcased like a robot holding a little girl hostage on top of a roof, and they went through all the different possible scenarios that this situation could end in. So either he kills himself and you save the girl, he kills himself and the girl also dies. They jump off the building, they don't jump off the building. There's a bunch of different dialogue options, and it looks pretty interesting. I'd like to see more from it. It doesn't seem like a game I'd buy straight up, but it's definitely a game I will keep my eye on, and if I ever need something to play in my spare time, it would definitely be a game I'd rent or borrow if I knew someone that had it. So overall, give that a 7 out of 10. They also announced the PlayStation VR will be debuting in October. I believe it's October 13th. And that will be about $400 for one of those headsets. They announced a couple different VR games. The biggest of which I took notice of were Resident Evil 7, which will be coming out January 24th of next year. Farpoint VR, which seems to be like a intergalactic, like you kind of like crash land on a weird planet and then figure out like what happened to the planet. That's kind of what I'm getting at. That looked pretty cool, and they announced a Batman VR, which I'm not really fully understanding currently. I'm not sure if that is a port of one of the previous Batman games, only with VR, or if they're making a new Batman game specifically meant to be played using a VR. So that you might have to look up a little bit more. Overall, I'll give this all 6 out of 10 on the hype scale. I do not plan on getting a VR headset anytime soon, but I do know some people that are very interested, and it seems like something that could be worth your while if it ever comes down to maybe like $200 or so. But of course, it's new, so it's going to be expensive, just like any piece of technology. And it'll be a while before I jump into the VR world, that's for sure. We also got some more from Call of Duty Infinite Warfare for all you haters that are hating on this game. It looks pretty good. They showed a mission where you basically are assaulting a space station or a spaceship, and there's some mid-space combat, which I'm not a big fan of, but it does go into and for the most part take place indoors, like a normal Call of Duty game where you're fighting the enemies and trying to either extract someone or extract some. I think you're trying to extract like intel or something, and then you basically narrowly get out, jump into your ship, and the enemy ship explodes behind you in the distance, which a little stereotypical, but pretty cool nonetheless. And overall, I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10 because Call of Duty is a game that I will be buying. It seems like um, the Modern Warfare remaster is a lot more popular, and I have to agree that I would rather play that than the Infinite Warfare game. But I'm gonna give the new one a try. I'm not gonna hate on it before I play it. I don't seem to be super excited about the space battles, but you never know. Maybe they'll do it well. I definitely am one of the people that will be looking for more classic Call of Duties to be released or remastered or something. And if they announce a remastered version of the Modern Warfare trilogy before Infinite Warfare comes out, I may not even purchase Infinite Warfare. I might just pick up that Modern Warfare remaster because I really just want to play MW2 again, and being able to do that on my PS4 would be awesome. So that will be coming out November 4th, and a lot of people seem to be excited, but there's obviously a lot of people that aren't as well. So to those people, I say enjoy Battlefield because it looks really good, and that should fill the niche you're looking for. We also got a little bit of the classic gaming involved here. They announced they're going to be remastering um, all three of the Crash Bandicoot games. For those of you who have played them, I'm pretty excited about that. I don't know if I would buy it straight up, but it's something I'd like to try out and maybe play at some point. The Crash games were very fun. I don't know if they will hold up over time or not as far as gameplay goes, but I'm willing to believe that they would. And they also announced Crash is going to be in a new Skylanders game, but I'm not super interested in that, so I don't think there's much to really talk about. The Crash remasters, I'll give 6 out of 10, just because it's not really new, but it is exciting for anyone who's a big fan of Crash. Um, we also got announced a new Spider-Man game for PS4 and maybe for other systems. I'm not sure. The trailer was definitely PlayStation oriented though, and it looks really good. They haven't really done superhero games with the exception of the Batman Arkham games very well in the past, and I'm hoping they're starting to get the concept down, and maybe this Spider-Man game will be good. It looked really good, and all I can hope is that it will play really good. So I'll give this a 7 out of 10 on the hype scale, and hopefully they won't screw it up. All right, so we have two more things to talk about here. One was the announcement of a new game called Days Gone. And I have to say, I wasn't really sure what this was, but they provided the most context to this game in comparison to really everything else they showcased. It seemed to be the biggest IP they were talking about. And for those of you who like open world, you will like this. For those of you who like survival games, you will like this. For those of you who like zombie games, you will like this. If you only like two of those three, you could still probably get into this game. I'm not a big fan of zombies, but I'm still willing to try this. It's kind of my ultimate nightmare, but I'll explain in a minute. I have to say, if you're gonna watch anything from this Sony conference, if you haven't watched anything yet, and you want to watch something, I highly recommend the God of War showcase, and then I also recommend this Days Gone trailer, and specifically the gameplay trailer, which will all be linked down below if you want to check that out. But basically, it's a post-apocalyptic world. There isn't quite any information about how that came to be. I'm assuming that's what buying the game would do for you. And you get to play a character who's riding around on a motorcycle. He looks to be like your typical kind of biker dude. And he gets off, and it seems like he's looking for either a friend that got driven off the road, or maybe he's looking for an enemy who got driven off the road. I don't know, but he's looking for someone. And you start to see, you'll find a blood trail, and then you see there's like a bunch of wolves eating a dead body, but it's not the person you're looking for. Then you see a little. If any of you guys have seen the Lord of the Rings, Gollum or Schmeagol, a little character that looks kind of like that, just kind of running around, and uh, he actually killed one of the wolves, and he then chases down the person that you're looking for, which then leads you to finding them. And you chase them around on the rooftops and up through buildings a little bit. And when you finally fall off the rooftop and hit the ground, you notice you are surrounded by probably the most massive horde of zombies I have ever seen in a video game, in my life. If any of you guys have seen, what was it, the Brad Pitt zombie movie? I'm drawing a blank here on what it was called. It came out very recently, and I'm sure most of you guys know what I'm talking about. But you think of the swarm zombies in that movie. This is exactly what we're up against. So these zombies chase him all around buildings, in through into a building. They're coming through the door, the windows, up the stairs, around the building, out on top of the roof, and he is just surrounded, mowing them down with bullets and everything he can find. But they're just not stopping, and it's ridiculous. It seems like my absolute nightmare when it comes to like a real life situation. And as far as video games, I feel like it'd still be terrifying, but I'm still very intrigued. So that was pretty interesting. I mean, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 just because I'm skeptical, as if I will want to play a game surrounded by that many zombies. But maybe I will. So, lastly, we are going to talk about the return of Kojima. He came out, the entire conference lit up. Everyone was super surprised. They were ecstatic. He said two simple words: "I'm back," and a gameplay or a trailer for his new game called Death Stranding went up, and it was very interesting. Another trailer I highly recommend watching. And this game features none other than Norman Reedus. If you guys have watched The Walking Dead, he plays Daryl. If you've watched the Boondock Saints, he's in those movies as well. And he has been ported into this game or scanned into this game, and he looks pretty good. But basically, all we see is some bloody hand and footprints on the beach that lead to a naked Norman Reedus laying on the beach. And then he stands up and looks up into the sky, and there's like 5 different figures, which are clearly like bodies of people. I don't know if they're human or not. I would assume they're not human. And all around him is just dead fish. You have dead whales, dead fish of all kind, dead dolphins, squid, everything. So it seems as if everything around him has died. And that would lead to the title Death Stranding, I assume. It definitely seems intriguing, and they didn't give us much more context for the game, or really much story at all, but it's something that I'm sure most people are going to be excited about, especially since Kojima's last project, which was PT, the Silent Hill game, got canceled, and Norman Reedus was actually supposed to be in that game as well. So it seems like they're working together on Death Stranding, so they can actually put something out there and really show what they can do. I'm extremely excited about this. It looks really good, and it's probably the most intriguing thing of all of the entire weekend of E3. So overall, as a general recap as a recap for Sony, I'm going to give it an 80%. And that's because they had some good stuff. They also had some stuff, but overall pretty good. As a general recap for the entire E3 conference over the course of all 3 days, um, personally, I'm most excited about what Ubisoft is putting out. They have South Park, they have Ghost Recon, and they have Watch Dogs 2 as well as For Honor. So those are all games that I'm really interested in. Bethesda put out some really good stuff. They have the new Skyrim remaster, which is top 3 things that have excited me in this E3. And they also have more Fallout 4 DLC as well as Dishonored 2. If we go back and look at EA, they're putting out Titanfall 2, a new Madden, a new FIFA, and Battlefield 1. Microsoft has the new Gears of War, a new Forza, Final Fantasy 15, Tekken 7, and Scalebound. And then, of course, Sony with God of War, The Last Guardian, Horizon Zero Dawn, this game called Death Stranding, a bunch of VR games, and some Crash Bandicoot remasters. So, overall, Ubisoft, Bethesda, and Sony, in my opinion, were successful. Nintendo could have done more. I think that they only showed 2 games. Microsoft did all right, but they didn't really give. They showed the Xbox One Slim, and then basically the entire rest of the conference proceeded to explain why you shouldn't buy it by announcing Project Scorpio and a bunch of other features that are going to be coming in the future. So, I also am not an Xbox player, so maybe that's why I wasn't super impressed. And of course, EA didn't really do very well, with the exception of Battlefield, and depending on who you ask, maybe one of the other games as well. But overall, I have to say this was a successful E3. If you're at the conference at all, you got to basically play and try out most of the games that we talked about. And, I have to say, I would love to attend someday soon. Maybe next year I could go. I just have to assume that, maybe we'll get another Elder Scrolls announcement in the future. Maybe we will get, a Sly Cooper game, or, there's just so many different things they could announce. Another Order 1886, another Last of Us. There's a ton of stuff I could sit here all day and list the games that I want to play. There's also a couple games that weren't mentioned in the E3 conferences here that I'm just going to list off for you guys. And new trailers and new things have come out about them recently, so feel free to check those out on your own. Most prominently for me is the announcement of 2K17, WWE 2K17 that is. And I believe they at E3 showed or announced 3 superstars that will be on the roster. I'm not sure who they are yet. I haven't got that far, but that's pretty cool. They also announced the Walking Dead Season 3, a new Warhammer game, Mafia 3, which could be one of the games of the year, and I definitely recommend looking into that. Gran Turismo, a new Hitman game, XCOM 2, and a new Deus Ex. So, there are a ton of games. I have a list of at least 40 games that have been brought to my attention over the past couple days or the past couple weeks. And I'm extremely excited. We're going to have a ton of stuff to play, especially come October and November. And then we're going to see some more games coming out in January and February. And I'm sure there'll be a ton of good deals over the holiday season at the end of the year. I want to thank all of you for watching. Of course, remember, you can look at the description down below if you want to get links to any of the things we talked about in these videos. And I will see you guys real soon.